Thank you for staying tuned to Uganda Broadcasting Corporation Television, where we inspire Uganda. I'm Jane Kasumba. This is a special talk show that is sponsored by the Judicial Service Commission here in Uganda. We will be talking about the work of the Judicial Service Commission, the fact that they link the following bodies: the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Ministry of Local Government, the Uganda Police Force, the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, the Judiciary, the Uganda Prison Service, the Uganda Law Reform Commission, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Very, very important indeed. As a national public broadcaster here in Uganda, our aim is not just to entertain, but to ensure that we're able to educate and guide the populace of Uganda and the greater East African region. Good evening. In studio with me is a gentleman who needs no introduction. Every single Monday, you're going to be able to hear from him, Mr. Ronald Sekaja from the Judicial Service Commission. Ronald, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Oh, thank you, Jen.
Very quickly, what is it that you do at the Judicial Service Commission?
Well, thank you. Judicial Service Commission, our business is one. We are the link. We are the bridge, the people's bridge to justice. Because we have the general public, those who are looking at us, our viewers, and then we have the service providers in the different institutions. We have the judiciary, judicial arm of government. We have the Uganda Police Force, as we are listing them. People should come and have services from these institutions. So in case they don't get the services, where do they go? Who tells them that this is where you get this service, this is where you register a marriage, this is where you get a certificate of no objection if you want to get letters of administration, this is where you go if you want a person to be released from prison? They need somebody to tell them. So one of our business is we hear the public and we speak back to the public. We hear from the service institutions and we speak to the public. That's one of our business. The other business we do is we are responsible for appointment of all judicial officers in the country. No single judicial officer can work without going through Judicial Service Commission. Like we have teachers, Education Service Commission, Public Service Commission. For judicial officers, it is Judicial Service Commission. And certainly, of course, there are two levels. We have those the commission appoints directly, and they deploy them in the judicial arm of government to work. But we also have a second category where the commission can only recommend registrar, chief registrar, judges of the High Court, the justices of the Constitutional Court and Court of Appeal, same court, and the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice. Those we recommend. And we recommend to His Excellency the President, and if he agrees with us, then he forwards the list to Parliament for approval. And once they are approved by Parliament, they independently begin doing their work of hearing and determining cases.
Thank you very much, Ronald. For those who are just joining us, you're tuned into Uganda Broadcasting Corporation Television, where we inspire Uganda. On a scroll currently, you will be able to see a toll-free number that you can call and get more information about the Judicial Service Commission. Many of you have been sending in tweets. Many of you have been sending in SMSs. Many of you have been sending in, you've actually been calling us and wanting to know, what is the law and how does it affect me and how can I use it to my betterment? As a citizen, as a Ugandan, when a crime is committed, what is my role? Ronald is going to tell us all that. Ronald, of course, many people don't know how the law works. How does it start? What is your role as a citizen? Let's start there.
Well, thank you, Jen. To crown it up first, we're educators. And that's the directorate I lead, educating the public, educating the judicial officers on law and administration of justice. So as teachers, we speak to the people that where does justice begin? We can take an example of a case that has two types, partly criminal and partly civil. Maybe it will be very interesting. The land matters in the country. Assuming you have your plot of land where you are, and somebody the following day comes with a truck and pours materials there. Materials, bricks, cement, whatever it is, stones, sand, and you say, hey, what is it that you are doing?
Yeah.
This is my plot. Now, if it begins there, it has two dimensions. One, if you talk to this person and he shows that he's arrogant, he's interested in annoying you, that would be criminal trespass. Criminal trespass, you are saying somebody has come, I've tried to speak to the person, but it appears his intention is to annoy me. Now, that takes a criminal path. Now, the other side of the story is
The civil part.
the civil part. Somebody tells you, well, I bought this plot of land. I have an agreement. You say, but I also have an agreement. So where both of you contend, your contention is on the ownership.
Yeah.
There is no criminal element. There it is straightforward civil case. So you need to go to court straight so that the court will determine the civil rights of the parties involved, and it will be a declaration as to who is the owner of that piece of land.
Okay.
Now, the problem we have, Jen, in the country
Yeah.
is there's confusion. People are so quick to go to police for anything that
Yeah,
they
because-
seem not to agree with.
No, because the police are out there. The police,
They're
every
nearer.
time they're nearer.
Yes.
Every time you see them, maybe you see them on television, the spokesperson on
Yes,
television.
yes.
I mean, they're everywhere. But the Judicial Service Commission and people of the law don't
Yes.
really come out and explain what it means to the local man in layman's terms, not in legal jargon,
Yes, that's
but
true, that's
in
true.
layman's terms.
That's true. And I think that's why, Jen, we are here. And this is the business we want to continue doing. We are still here for about a month. And I think we have arrangements to continue for another month.
Yeah.
So I think by the time we get a break, we'll have gone a little far. And we have other programs. We reach out on radio, we reach out in communities, up to
Yeah.
sub-county level. But back to that point.
You were talking about the confusion.
The confusion. Now, there are people who have taken would-be civil cases to decide who owns this piece of land. They have taken this to police. Now, they take witnesses that actually don't say, this person came to annoy me. They come to say, this land belongs to Sekaja, or this land belongs to Jane.
Yeah.
Now, police look through, writes down the statements, and I was asking one of the leaders in police, why do you keep these cases when you know they are purely civil cases? And he was saying, but you know the problem we have. People don't believe us.
Yeah.
If you say it is a civil case, they say you've eaten money. Now he has been bribed. That's why he has rejected my case. So I say, let the case continue, set out, and we'll sort it out. They throw it to court, court will decide. But
Yeah.
you know, it's not fair.
And of course, a lengthy process
It's
as
a
well.
lengthy process, and you don't get a solution, because the best you can ever get in a criminal case is punishment for the offender,
Yes.
not a declaration as to ownership.
True.
So someone can go to prison for having criminally trespassed on your land. He came to annoy you, but after the prison sentence, he will come back and say, this is my land. So you go back to square one. So we are telling our people that decide what you want. Is it really punishment for this guy who has poured material on your piece of land? Or is it your land that you treasure?
So, so
if-
where is the remedy for, yeah, that's the
Exactly.
question.
So once you decide that I want this man to know, this woman to know this is my land, so you go to the court, civil court, for a civil
Matter.
case. It is a civil matter, and you want a redress on a declaration as to who is the rightful owner of this piece of land.
Yeah.
That's where it is. So that the witnesses you bring will say, this is his land.
Yeah.
And it is peaceful. You know, Jane, if they dragged your uncle to police, the relationship between you and the complainant is always very hot. But in a civil matter, yes, there are confrontations, but they're limited. Because you come from home, nobody is asked to pay for bail.
Yeah.
You put in you can get a lawyer. And I really encourage our listeners and our viewers that when it comes to land, Jane, you know what it is. You can mess up your case on the pleadings. Pleadings are the papers you write to state what your case is. Those
Yeah.
are the pleadings. Now, if you go to clerks of court to write for you, they are going to spoil your case. You rather get a lawyer.
A lawyer, yes.
A lawyer.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a lawyer, you don't have the money, can you please call our number? I know it will be running down
the toll-free
number. The toll-free number
is already running.
Yes, 0800 100 221, and ask if there is anybody we know, any institution, any civil society organization next to your place. So we direct you. You go and ask if they can be able to provide free legal services. Other than you using the so little money you have, they mess up your case. Whether you appeal, they will still pull out how you stated your case in the beginning.
Yeah, and Ronald, actually, it's very good that you said that, because many people, especially our viewers who must be watching, are like, we're always very wary of lawyers. Not only are they extremely expensive, and at times they're extremely shrewd. And that's why you find a person taking a shortcut, not because they don't want to use a lawyer, but they feel, especially on matters to do with land, if they can get someone who relates more to them and someone they can trust, they're better off. So kindly, for example, do you talk as a Uganda, as a Judicial Service Commission, do you talk to your lawyers on how perhaps to handle people and to handle such matters?
Well, thank you, Jane. What we do is, of course, when we meet the people, we educate them, we tell them where to go. We don't have the pass where we can sponsor people to have free legal services. We don't represent parties in court. But the good news is government is working on the legal aid policy, and it is in advanced stages. So there's a recognition by the government that people need legal services. They need legal aid. But we didn't have a policy, so we couldn't have a law.
Yeah.
But as we speak, the policy is in high stages, which is a plus. And we believe once this policy comes to pass, a law will come out of it, and people will begin to access legal aid services. So what we do currently is, we know we have justice centers. They provide legal services.
Where are your justice centers exactly?
Well, they're in particular regions, not everywhere. Kampala we have, Hoima we have, Mbarara we have a list. So if somebody contacted us on our toll-free number, we can be able to direct where we have justice centers. And doesn't mean they offer services freely to everybody. They have a criteria they use, so that when you can fit within their criteria and you satisfy that you are such category of persons,
they take you on.
They take you on, and that's how they do it. We have Uganda Law Society's legal aid clinic at Kamocha, and they are providing services. Every lawyer is supposed to give free legal services to a particular degree, and they agree. So if you go to Uganda Law Society, if you don't know where it is, please ring the toll-free number. That is the easiest way of how they can direct you. Then if they take you on, they'll give you a lawyer. So when you look, we have the legal aid providers network, LAPSNet. They also provide legal aid services. They are a congregation of many legal non-state actors that provide legal aid services in the country. So we can link you to these legal aid service providers. You talk to them. We don't recommend you, but we forward you. So if you satisfy their requirements, they take you on. Other than going in a land case, when you have, let's give the practical example, Jane. If you are not a lawyer and you are writing your plaint or your statement of case, okay, to the court, and you say, I have land in Bukoto, and then you say,
of such and such an acre, the description of the land.
The moment you describe the land, it means you know.
Yes.
Many of them do not describe the land. That's the problem. And most of our land is not registered land in the country. We are not talking about titles. We are talking about customary holdings. We are talking about those pieces of land where people still look at the tree as the boundary and the anthill. Those are the people who are watching us. So how do they write down their case? So I will say, I have my land in Igulu near that swamp, and it is mine. I have held it for 20 years. Now, they forget to describe what is on the left side of the land, who is in the north, who is in the south, how big is it. They
Yeah.
leave out a lot of description. And then the people they want to bring as witnesses, they may think, I'll bring my relatives, but the court will be interested in the neighbors.
In the neighbors,
Well, that
yes.
is because the neighbors will say, he has been here for 20 years.
In the local LC man.
And of course, as it is in Uganda, we don't have so many good neighbors. I don't know why.
Mm.
If you want to see a problem, tell any Ugandan that let us have your neighbors to come and stand on your side in a case. You will see trouble because people don't easily relate. I don't know why.
Well, that is a very, very interesting point. And you talked about the issue of lack of description of land.
Yes.
And not everybody knows that.
That's
and people
true.
who are watching today, if, for example, you're talking about your parcel of land, you must know how it's well described.
Yes, you describe it very well.
The acreage or the amount of land that you have,
Exactly.
who's neighboring the land.
Exactly. Do
Particular
you have any kind of written
yeah,
thing,
written
something
documentation or certificate of title?
Yes.
All that is important. But most importantly, when the people who we're talking about
Yes.
are not the Ronalds, are not the Janes, are
no.
not the Margarets
Yes.
who have access to a lawyer
That's true.
or who have access to some form of basic education.
Mm.
We're talking about the man or the lady who is maybe upcountry,
Yeah.
who has no clue, and even vernacular is a problem. And I want to know, for the Judicial Service Commission, you speak beautiful English, but half the people, when they want to be explained about legal matters, they need it in their own vernacular language. And I know you have a wonderful book you came with, the Citizen's Handbook on Law and Administration of Justice in Uganda. This is the 3rd edition,
Yes.
for which I have read. I want to know, how many times has it been translated into a local language here in Uganda
Well, thank you, Jen.
by the Judicial Service Commission?
I think we have about 9 languages of this book. This is the
Okay.
Uganda version.
Okay.
But we have in Ateso, Ngakarimajong, Lusoga, Swahili, Runyankore Ruchiga.
Because I think that's very, very
We
important.
have in Alur, we have in Luo. I hope I've not forgotten some. So
Yeah.
we have translated it. And of course,
And I can see it's a very basic handbook that talks and really shows you about disciplinary offenses, the introduction of the legal system in Uganda. So it's a well thought out book in a layman's language.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. And wherever we go on our sensitization, we offer these books free of charge. You don't buy them. The challenge we have got, though, is people seem to like the English version and the Uganda version. Wherever we go, they say, no, give me English. Okay, give me the Uganda one. So we are trying to increase the print. Of course, currently, Jen, we stopped printing these books because we are making the revision.
Okay.
There's a revision going on, and we are having a meeting, I think, next Tuesday to finalize those who are going to work on it. But when it comes out, we'll have more of the information we have also come across as a result of using these books. We see there are also gaps, so I want to bridge these gaps so that when somebody gets a citizen's handbook from Judicial Service Commission, you can literally be able to help everybody around you.
Yeah.
Whether you know there are people who produce children that look like their neighbors, and you find your wife has produced a child, but the child looks just like your neighbor, and you look at the neighbor, you look at the son, you wonder what happened really.
Yeah.
And those who are watching us, at times you find the real battles.
Yeah.
Now the man can't say it, the woman can't say it, but there's war. Now
Yeah.
this book also gives you direction.
It gives you direction,
You don't have
and
to cut anybody.
so you can sit down with your
You can
neighbor,
sit,
and
yes.
you can
Yes.
iron out some legal
You
issues.
go and it's easy. You go and you carry out a DNA test. And we have parents who have denied children. Even when they are writing the will, they don't include them because they suspect, or everybody in the family says, that woman must have come when she's pregnant. And a woman knows, this is the father of the child. And at times, because our people don't know. So when we reach out to them, these are some of the issues we bring. There are also issues which I believe are so crucial for those who are watching us. There are people in the villages there, people in the townships there, in the districts. This is about land. land and marriage, Jane, are related.
Yeah, they are.
And if you don't talk about marriage, you will not talk about land well. And then you won't talk about succession successfully.
Yeah.
So it is a matter that I think is important for us. Some people don't like it, but we have to tell the truth. The rights you get when you are married are easily defendable.
Yeah, before the law.
Yes, before the law.
Yeah.
You have where to begin. Now, if there is no marriage, you've lost a husband, you've lost a wife, it becomes total confusion.
Yeah.
It is so difficult. So we are encouraging people. We are encouraging the viewers, the sub-county chiefs. Please, sub-county chiefs, in those councillors' meetings that you have, can you tell the people you are registrars? Because they are registrars of marriages. But at times they don't tell the people. I went to one of the places in the Kasese area, and I was saying, do you have the certificates for customary marriages? It's like I was speaking French. They didn't understand.
Yeah.
I said, but the law gives you the powers. You should be having this book, register book, in your office.
To carry out that.
Yes, so that when somebody has been introduced, they have concluded the function, they come to you, they enter their particulars, they pay very little money, they take their duplicate copy, you take yours to URSB in Kampala, and then they also take theirs to register. And that's a good marriage. Whether they go to church next or not, they are safeguarded.
Indeed.
At that level.
So all this is in the Citizens Handbook
Here.
on law and administration of justice in Uganda.
Yes. You want a
Very
passport.
interesting.
It tells you
Very interesting.
where to go.
And you said it's in all major languages.
All major languages,
in Uganda,
we have
Luo,
the copies, yes. We have
Swahili.
Luo, we have Swahili, we have Lusoga, we have Alur,
Yeah.
we have Luganda, we have, of course, English, we have Ateso, we have Ngakaramajong. So we have those languages.
Yeah.
Runyakwe, Ruchiga.
Yeah.
So basically the main languages we have. But the only challenge we have, Jen, now is after making the improvement, we have to do it all again.
Indeed.
Yes.
So on that note, just hold that thought.
Yes.
Why is it that the Citizens Handbook on Law and Administration of Justice in Uganda by the Judicial Service Commission has to be reviewed? That is, of course, the question.
Yes.
What have they missed out in this edition? I think it's a third edition. We'll find out after this short break. Remember, the toll-free line for the Judicial Service Commission, should you need it, is 0800 100 22 1. So that's 0800 100 22 1/2. I'm Jane Kasumba. We're going for a quick commercial break. Ronald from the Judicial Service Commission and myself will be right back after this very short break. Thank you for staying tuned to Uganda Broadcasting Corporation Television, where we inspire Uganda. This is a special talk show sponsored by the Judicial Service Commission here in Uganda. We shall talk, of course, about the law, and we are doing so. Ronald Sekaja is my special guest from the Judicial Service Commission. We have been talking about justice, law, and order, and how the Judicial Service Commission is playing a pivotal role here in Uganda, and of course meeting the citizens' needs in matters to do with law. The toll-free number for the Judicial Service Commission is currently on the scroll on your screens as we speak. Kindly take it down, you might need it in due course. And before we went for the break, we talked about the Judicial Service Commission Citizens Handbook on Law and Administration of Justice in Uganda. If you happen to be a community leader, maybe you're an LC chairman, maybe you're a local RDC, you should have this book in your office. Maybe you're a lawyer who's up country, maybe you're head of a family. know your rights, both those who are in the legal sphere, those who are in the law sphere, but most importantly, you as a citizen. What does the law have to say about you? Now, Ronald, very quickly, what was in the Citizen's Handbook that you felt you had to review?
Well, thank you, Jen. At the inception of this idea, what we had in mind is, can we have a citizen get to know what services they can acquire, they can receive from the different justice agencies? That was the main purpose. So that's why you have all of them listed here with their addresses, with their toll-free lines, and a brief of what each institution offers.
Yes.
Now, when we went down, we think this has sunk a little bit. Now, we want to put in some flesh, some kind of education, where you say, okay, let us talk about marriage. So you go into marriage so somebody can understand what marriage is, what are the dynamics in marriages, which are the right places to go to conclude these marriages. Then if you're talking about land, because we found it is such a crucial issue, what is land? What are these types of land tenure? What are the complications? Where do you go? So we want now to move
What does
to
the
level
law
2.
say?
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, because people talk about land, etc., but they don't follow the law or the changes in the law.
That is true.
So that is important.
Yes, of course.
Continue, Ronald.
There are so many amendments that have been have been made, including amendments in the Constitution that affect us as Judicial Service Commission. I think, Jenny, you know that initially we didn't have powers of appointment and discipline of other judiciary staff.
Yes.
We ended on the judicial officers. But now, under the Constitution, the mandate to appoint and discipline non-judicial staff, the other staff in the judiciary, has been given to Judicial Service Commission.
Yeah.
So now if we find a court clerk misbehaving, we have the mandate to handle. So those are some of the issues that have also happened. So our powers have been expanded, but also the laws have been going through so many changes. And we want to update the handbook to the current law at the time of producing it, so that we don't give somebody a handbook which talks about a law that has been overtaken by events. So, and as you know, for us, we are teachers. We give you the law as it is. We don't suggest what it should be. Our business is, if the law has been passed, we tell you domestic law, violence law is like this. Sending these SMSs to your spouse at the place where he or she works, you know, it makes her uncomfortable. Moving around the place of work to see who is she talking to.
Yeah.
That is a menace. It is an offense. So we tell you that.
It's an offense in the law.
Yes, it's an offense in the law. Like, Jen, you are here, and then the person, maybe a husband or even a friend, because domestic violence is not about marital status. It's about domestic living. Yeah. So, and somebody keeps moving around. Who is Jen talking to? Who is that guy in the studio? He's always coughing around. You know, you can go and take this matter up, and they'll give him a prohibition order never to step near where Jen works. So you can avoid that. You know, violence is abuse of the mind. So if that is the law, we tell you what it is. Be careful as you text the person you stay with at home those hot messages.
Yes.
You're stupid. I don't know when I'll get rid of you. Oh,
those
God,
emotionally damaging messages.
Those ones, they torture. That is torture.
And you know, many people don't know this.
They don't know. I think some of them must be scared now. So,
you know, when someone is sending you a text message that is very hot and damaging.
And before you digest it, another one comes.
I'm telling you.
A heavier one.
Yes.
So that's an offense. But people don't know. So we tell you, use your technology wisely.
Yes.
So if the law changes, we also tell you the changes of the law. We have the law of defilement. It has also changed, because initially it would be only the males that will defile. But now females also defile. Yeah. So there are changes in the law. So these are things we want to take into account so that we get a complete handbook. In this book, for example, we talk about wills, but briefly. Yeah. Now we want to put a copy, a draft of a will. Yeah. So that when you get it, you just get the book, copy here, put here, fill in, and sign and take somebody to sign. You have your will complete without
Yeah.
any questions.
And-
So
and I
that is
think
the level where we are going.
On matters of great interest, and many of our publics have talked about this, two areas:
Yes.
land and that of wills.
Wills, succession.
Yeah,
yes.
succession,
Yes,
succession
succession
law.
is a problem.
And people, of course, fear the issue of succession. They fear making a will. They fear those who are left behind. How do you proceed, perhaps, if a
Yes.
person dies testate or dies non-testate? I mean, all
yes.
those issues. So if you're going to bring out a whole chapter on that,
Yes.
yeah, by when will it be out? When will the next edition be out?
So
Because that's something that really is critical and people want to know about it.
we believe before the close of this year we'll have this book out, because
Yeah.
the firms that are bidding, I think we are going to be considering them around the next week, and then the program takes not more than 6 months. So should we be having our printouts, the first printout, before the close of the year? But as we were discussing here, I remembered some of the main challenges that we have found as Judicial Service Commission, as a people's bridge to justice, that is a headache to the public, apart from land, but specifically in succession. We have people who we call heirs,
Yes,
and then we have people we call executors.
yes.
To our viewers, the heir concentrates on the rights, the customary rights. We are talking about the inheritance rights, in particular to the individual as it relates to the community. Like the Baganda, if you are Omusika, the heir, whenever they call the deceased, you are the one who comes. If there are any cultural issues to handle, ceremonial, you are
You're
the one who comes.
yeah.
Now, in Uganda, when you are the Musika, you are the heir. That does not mean every property of the deceased belongs to you. Because the Mukuza now, they would be executor, the one who puts in practice what the will says, has a responsibility beyond the heir. So when we look at it in law, well, there are many people who are heirs and have thrown out widows from their homes.
Yeah.
Because they are the heir, they want also to take on these widows. If the widow refuses to be taken on as a wife, then she's out. The children are out. So we wanted to say something, Jane, about this.
Indeed.
That when you are the heir, it is about blood. That's bloodline. But when you are an administrator, when you are an executor of the will, it is an office.
And should be managed as such.
It is an office and you are accountable. Should you misuse the property, the assets of the deceased for your own benefit, other than the rightful beneficiaries, they can sue you and you make good the loss. And it's also
Please, can you just repeat that again?
Yes.
Because that is a question that has come up time and time again.
Yes.
I know we also handle a lot of those
Yes.
issues, people
Yes.
coming to UBC and asking us about those matters of succession. Just repeat your last statement again.
Yes. If you go to court and you get letters of administration
As the administrator.
as an
As a-
administrator,
yes.
or you are an executor,
An executor of the will.
it is an office. You are supposed to ensure that the assets are applied in favor of the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Should you use the assets of the deceased for your own benefit other than for the entitled beneficiaries, you can be sued and you make good the loss.
Yeah.
So you can't say because you are the administrator, so you sell the land and you feed your family, and then the children of the deceased have nothing. You don't take them to school. You sell the land and you build the houses for yourself. They can sue you and you pay whatever you destroyed. That's why the law says once you get these letters, within 6 months, you must make an inventory. What it means, go with accountability papers after 6 months to the court which gave you those powers and say, when you gave me this office, this is how much you gave me. So many plots
This was
of
the
land,
estate.
This is the estate. And this is how
the
I've
condition
dealt
of the
with
estate,
it.
yeah.
Yes. This I've given this one, I've given this one, I've sold this one, I've paid off this debt, and this is what is remaining. Because if you don't do that, that's one reason they can cancel or revoke those powers. So somebody else will come up. And then something which is so sickening is, you know, I'm not a lady, but I'm a married man. And I know how we struggle with my wife to get things to come into being.
Yeah.
Now, if I pass away and you just come and you trash her, I think that would be injustice.
Yeah.
Now, we have widows that are left behind, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah. They don't know their rights
They
before the
still
law.
look to the uncles. They still look to the heir. But the law is clear. If the husband dies and has not left a will behind, you, the widow, go to court straight. Apply to get letters of administration to become the administrator of the estate of your deceased husband. And to them, they don't need to go to the COW's office, Chief Administrative Office, Officer's Office, for a certificate of no objection. A widow is accepted just like an executor. So you go straight to court, they'll give you those letters, then you stand in the shoes of your late husband and take charge of the property. I'm surprised that in many places in this country, we have moved. We find that a challenge as these widows are thrown out, they even don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do a lot of teaching.
And I think a lot of sensitization, because
Certainly.
situations would not happen. People would not take advantage of
Yeah,
widows,
that's
for
true,
example,
that's
people
true.
in this situation, if they knew that people knew the law. And in
Yes.
this situation, it's clear that that's why I was asking you, issues to do with how do you translate the law in vernacular?
In vernacular.
How many people can understand
That
it?
is true.
Yeah,
That's
because
true.
what you've said is very clear. But I'm telling you, because UBC reaches far across
Yeah, that's true,
Uganda
that's
and
true.
beyond borders.
That's true.
Today, there's some lady sitting somewhere,
Says, oh,
some widow who didn't know this.
that's true.
Yeah, who didn't
That's
know
true.
this? Yeah, you were saying, Ronald.
Yes, and something else which is also so touching, in some areas in this country, the children, I'm talking about, you know, for purposes of succession, Jane, you know that I'm also a child.
Of course.
If my father passes away, I also go as a child to benefit from the estate. That's true. But the other problem we are finding is children, adult children, they demand land from the parents who are alive and say, Daddy, give me my piece of land. And it is
No.
almost like force, especially in the western part of the country. It is horrible. They demand, they threaten, they cause violence, asking their parents to give them land. Maybe we should thank the government that we no longer have graduated tax. Because before, if you are 18 and you are redundant in the village, they will be chasing you for your ticket. Can you give us the graduated tax ticket? These days, the taxes, we pay them on salt and sugar, so nobody is being chased around.
Yeah.
Once you clock 18, you are staying alone. The necessity, the obligation to look after you by the parent ceases.
Ceases under the law.
Ceases, exactly, under the law.
Yeah.
That's why if you are in senior 6, you are 18 years, you are pregnant, your father feels bad, but there's nothing you can do because you are an adult. Now, if you are an adult, you've even left the home, you have a wife, you have children, you are driving your Pajero in Kampala, and you hear that in Kanungu, your father is selling the land. Do you know that these powerful men and women, Jane, they drive to these places and threaten their parents? How can you sell our land? Where do you want us to go? But you already an adult. Who tells you that your father's property is yours?
And that, I think that is very true. Yeah, your father's property is not yours. Unless he or she or your mother bequeaths it to you.
That is true. And
Yeah.
you can't force them and say, give me my, wait for me to die. And besides, that might be a good reason for me, not in my will actually, to give it to you.
Yeah.
And I give it to somebody else. So I think we have a problem. We neglect our parents, all right? We're busy with our wives, okay? But when they sell the land in the village, we are the first people to tell them, stop. How do you sell our land? Let us know this. The land rights are clear. Your parents own property. If you are no longer a child, you also own your own property.
And just a child is a person above 18.
Above 18, yes,
Yes.
we're talking about. If
Under
you
the
are-
law.
Under the law. You are above 18, you are a complete, independent human being. You can take your decisions as you want. So that does not give you a right over your father's property. And we have also children, adult children, who keep around the home with the view that the parent is dying soon. Unfortunately, these parents are not dying as we think they should die. So you find there is chaos because the men have grown, they are around the house, they are building small huts, they don't want to go and work because they think the father has worked. You know, we're in Busoga recently, and I was on one of those radio, I think it was KBS. So I was speaking to the people about land rights, and a gentleman called and said, you have helped us. Our old children want to kill us. They are saying we must give them land. I think that old man had a nice sleep that evening. But you see, it shows
Because
you.
they're protected under the law.
They are protected under the law. And for us who think we know it, we also don't know it. So let us look after our parents. You have actually, I was reading the African Charter on Human Rights. Actually, it makes it an obligation for the children who have grown to look after their parents. I read it and I was surprised. But instead of looking after them, we want them to give us the land before they even pass away. So I thought that is also an area that we need to look at. And then maybe slightly related with this one, you know, we have RDCs.
Yes.
The RDCs are doing tremendous work. And I know we still also have to sensitize these friends of ours. There are many of them who are doing the right things. But there are also many who are being misled. And it's on simple grounds. You see, the courts remain the final decision makers.
Of course.
On people's rights. I love the RDCs, the way, you know, they're the head of the security in the districts.
Yes.
And they do it very well. So I think in the bid to ensure that there's security in the area, they try to avoid these escalating land disputes. But in doing so, some go beyond and make orders. Now, that's where the problem is. If the matter is in court, we advise them that let court settle the matter. And so we have some politicians, they try to come in and use the RDCs and mislead them.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make it clear, this is a national broadcaster, that dear RDCs, do not accept to be misled. I know they are clear-headed individuals. They don't break the law. So do not allow somebody to use you, and after that they go behind you and you find yourself in trouble. As an RDC, I would expect you to make sure there's security in the district where you are. If there's any land wrangle, get interested, okay? To make sure there's order, but as much as possible, let the matter go to court. Or if you can help the people to reconcile, wonderful. Let the reconciliation be put in writing and let nobody be forced. Let them sign and take it as their reconciliation. Because they will have agreed. LOCs can do that, RDCs can do that, and they are better placed to do it. But where it comes to making orders, there we don't want our government to go into paying bills in costs because of decisions. So I'm just making an appeal.
Yeah.
I'm making just an appeal that do not allow to be used by some unscrupulous people. Stay clear above that.
And follow the law.
Follow the law. That is it. Follow the law. Follow the law.
And that passionate appeal, of course, is to the RDCs all across the country.
Yes.
But as we part, because Ronald, has been really a wonderful discussion, and we can go on for many more hours, but we're still going to host you next Monday and the Monday after that.
That's true.
We just want to know how the Judicial Service Commission is that link between the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, the Ugandan Police Force. How does that come about?
Well, thank you, Jen. There's what we have, we call the Justice Law and Order sector. Now, that umbrella kind of institutionalization is to help us for purposes of communication, coordination, and communication.
Yeah.
So Judicial Service Commission, because we reach out on behalf of all these institutions. That's why if I'm here, I can ably talk about police. I can talk about the resident state attorney, the DPP's office. I can talk about judiciary. And I can carry materials. For example, when you look through this book, you won't find only Judicial Service Commission. You have police, you have prison, we talk about them. So that's how the linkage comes in. That JSC, since you also advise government on the improvement on administration of justice, can you reach out to the public and talk to them about us? How they can access our services. That is, if we receive a complaint from police, we can directly write to the IGP as Judicial Service Commission and say, in this area, we found this, it needs attention, and he will take action.
Yeah.
When we are going to prisons, for example, we go with an assistant director of public prosecutions. We go with a commissioner of prisons. So we go with a senior judicial officer in the area. So when we are in prison sensitizing the inmates, because we do it, so we have all of this together. So if there's an issue, we say, court, what did you do? How did this man find himself in a prison without passing through a court? So the judicial officer is there to answer. So when we go to these prisons, there are people who come out of prison. So the linkage is in that form, getting the public to know how they access all these other justice agencies, and also reaching out with a message from the justice agencies to the people. So that's the business of the Lutindo, the bridge, the People's Bridge.
Indeed, the People's Bridge, the Judicial Service Commission. A special thank you to Ronald Sekaja, the Registrar Education and Public Affairs. He has been very thoughtful and touched on some pertinent issues, especially for the citizen when it comes to matters to do with the law. You can always join Ronald here on UBC every single Monday. That's next week and the week after that, because the Judicial Service Commission is having special talk shows, specialized talk shows just for you. Just a quick reminder, there is a toll-free if you want to get help from the Judicial Service Commission, or perhaps you want to elaborate further on what Ronald talked about for this 1 hour. You can call the number 0800 100 221/2. That's 0800 100 221/2. It's toll-free, just for you. And Ronald, on a parting note, what would you want someone who's at home to know? Just one phrase.
Please remember the toll-free number. Write it on your wall, write it in your bedroom, write it on your table, so that whoever comes to your house will get that number. One day that number might make the difference between losing life and saving life.
A special thank you to Ronald. A special thank you also to our entire production team who've been behind this production. Like I said, we'll join you again next week and the week after that, and we'll discuss the Judicial Service Commission and the work that they're doing. Just a passionate plea to everybody who's watching and everybody who's living in Uganda. You have rights, and those rights are within the laws of Uganda. Read the laws, be informed, and know your rights. Thank you so much for watching. Special thank you to the UBC team, and good night.